Hello everyone, welcome to AWS Tutorials. In AWS Tutorials, we provide workshops and exercises to learn about AWS services. These workshops and exercises are published to our website aws-dojo.com. Few days back, actually, I published a video and workshop about introduction to AWS Glue Studio. And because this service has been recently launched, and I got a lot of feedback, people asking about how to use custom transformation in AWS Glue Studio. So yeah, here I am with a new video and workshop which talks about how you can use custom transformation inside AWS Glue Studio to create Glue jobs. Okay, so let's get some introduction first. So first of all, AWS Glue Studio is a graphical way, is a visual way of creating AWS Glue job. Earlier, you have been using your own editors to write your own code for the Glue job and then configure it, publish it. Now you have got a built-in Glue Studio as a part of AWS Glue service, where you can create these jobs in a graphical interface, using visual interfaces. Again, I'm not going to give you introduction about detail about this service because I already have an introduction video on this service. I'm going to provide you a link of that video in the description box below, and you can follow it if you have not now. So if you know Glue Studio, you can move forward. If you don't, I will recommend that see that video first, introduction video first, and then come to this video. So moving on. Glue Studio has, when you try to create a job inside Glue Studio, the basic building blocks of writing the job are nodes, and nodes are of three types actually. So you have a data source node, and these data source nodes are responsible for reading the data from the source. Then you have data target nodes, and these nodes are responsible to write data at the target. And then we have transform nodes, which are responsible to transform your data. So they actually manipulate your data, whether you want to split data, join data, apply some kind of other transformation. The whole transformation job are done by these transform nodes. Now, these transform nodes, there are many transform nodes available, and actually, if you want to understand like for instance, this is the list of the transform nodes which are available at this point of time. I'm sure this list is going to increase in the coming days. So, for instance, you have select fields to able to select based on the columns. You can drop your fields from the data. You can join more than one data set together. You can split one data set into multiple using split fields. So there are filter conditions to apply filter on the data. And then we also have custom transform, which is used to write transformation using code. And this code you can write into either PySpark or Scala. So it is very important, since today we are going to talk about custom transform. It is very important that you understand how PySpark or Scala type of transformation frameworks work. And if you don't know, then again, I have created another tutorials and a workshop where you work with AWS Glue and PySpark to do different types of transformation. So I strongly recommend that you should have a knowledge about how these transformation on the data frame or dynamic frame work in PySpark. And if you don't understand that, then you will not able to understand some part of this tutorial. So I have provided a link for PySpark training, and I strongly recommend that you go through that before you continue any further. So yeah, two basic knowledge is required, that you know how the Glue Studio works, some introduction about that, and second, how your transformation works either in PySpark or in Scala. In this case, we are going to use PySpark. So yeah, today we are going to focus on this custom transform. So let's understand how this custom transform works. So when you use custom transform, you can use your custom code to do the transformation on the data. And that custom code you write into a code block, which will have a function like this. Yeah. So this is a example of the function, how it look like. And this function actually takes two parameters: glue context and data frame collection. And actually, glue context is which provide a kind of glue context and Spark session to your Spark cluster behind the scene, so that you can run different types of PySpark transformation. But what is most important for you to understand is that this function actually, I said under this function you write your transformation code. Yeah, take it that way. And this function takes dynamic frame collection as input, and the output is also dynamic frame collection. So this function is able to handle more than one dynamic frame at the same time into the business logic. And you can also produce more than one dynamic frame in your business logic, and you can return that as an output. So very important to understand that your input for this function is dynamic frame collection, and your output is also dynamic frame collection. So having these two basics in mind, let's try to understand how you can configure custom transform and how you can write code inside custom transform to do data transformation. So let's talk a bit about input. Okay, so in custom transform, since a custom transform can work with a collection of dynamic frame, there could be more than one. There could be more than one nodes which could be parent for the custom transform. So, for instance, in this case, you see you have got three nodes, which are so this custom transform is saying that okay, my parents are source 1, source 2, and source 3. That means these three nodes are providing, each of them are providing one data frame to custom transform. So the custom transform input data frame collection, dynamic frame collection, has got three dynamic frame, one from each of these nodes. And if you try to see into the code, if you want to access, so for instance, this is the function again, you can actually use index of the keys to fetch each of these dynamic frames. So important message here is that when you're writing a custom transform or custom code, you can work with your parents to this node could be more than one node from where your dynamic frame is coming, and it can deal with dynamic frame collection. So like in this case, we have got three parents as configured over here, and like we can use this index method over here, key index method, to actually able to fetch each of these individual dynamic frame and then do transformations on those dynamic frame. So that's very important from the input point of view. So moving on, so once you have got input, then you of course perform your own transformation, and then you excuse me. So then you perform your own transformation, and then you have to give out the result, which will then consumed by the following nodes. So let's understand some of that part. So the way it works is that you can see over here that we got three dynamic frame from the parents of this custom node, and we extracted each of these three dynamic frame using the indexes 0, 1, and 2. then you can put here business logic. So here you can use any kind of PySpark or Scala business logic to perform whatever transformation you want to do. I'm not going there. Again, I have a separate course. You can see the URL of that course in the description box below, and if you go through that course, you'll understand what different methods available inside PySpark for data transformation. But basically, you write your business your business logic over here, and then you simply start returning your result. So your result is also a dynamic frame collection. And then in that you can have one dynamic frame, 2, 3, 4, depending on how many dynamic frame you have transformed and you want to pass back to the next in the business logic. So like in this case, it has taken 3 dynamic frame as input, and it is producing 3 dynamic frame as an output. Yeah. So you can do like that. And when you are doing this, it's very important that you when any node which comes after custom transform, it does not know what is the schema of the transformation. Okay, so it's very important that you define the schema of the transformation, because when you're dealing with, like, for instance, any data from a data catalog. So like in this case over here. So when this node was fetching data from the data catalog, by virtue of talking to data catalog, it knows what is the schema of the data. But when you're using custom transform, actually you are changing the data the way you want in your code. So your custom transform, and also to tell that how is the schema going to look like for my output data, for my output collection of data of the dynamic frames, because then all the nodes which come after this will then use that schema as a way to recognize your data and also do any further business logic they want to implement on top of that. So whenever you use a custom transform, you have to go and define output schema, and you can have more than one output schema. The number of output schema depends on how many dynamic frame you are returning in your dynamic frame collection. So like in this case, you can see that we are returning 3 dynamic frames into dynamic frame collection. So in this case, you need to have 3 schemas, like output 1, output 2, output 3. And you simply go and add here what are different fields and what are different data types. So you have to define here your output and output schema for the type of after the transformation done on the data. And again, you have to do it because it's a custom business logic. You have to you are manipulating your data, you are only changing your data, so of course you want to see you want to mention that into output schema, so that any node following this custom transform, which is consuming data from custom transform, can make use of that output schema for the business logic. So in this case, as I mentioned that since we are returning 3 dynamic frame as a part of dynamic frame collection, we have defined 3 schemas. So number of schemas over here depends on number of dynamic frames you're returning from your through your collection. Okay. So after this, then how do you handle the output? Because now output is your dynamic frame collection. That means we need some method to able to parse out each of these dynamic frame so that it can be used. And that's where this select from collection node becomes very important. In fact, when you put a custom code node, a custom transform node into your graph, into your editor, this select from collection node automatically gets added, because the purpose of select from collection node is to able to select a particular dynamic frame from your custom transformation collection, which is returned. So like in this case, since my custom code was returning 3 dynamic frame collection, here we added 3 select from collection, so that each of these nodes can pick their own dynamic frame and can do whatever whatever they want to do. So for instance, the way the configuration look is that you select the transform as select from collection, and then of course you have to put your parent as a custom transform, and then you can see here you have to select the frame. So like in this case, the first one, it says give me the frame number 1. So it is picking the frame by index from the collection. And this one is saying give me the frame number 2. This one is saying give me the frame number frame number 2, and this is saying frame number 3. So index 0, 1, and 2. So each of these select from collections are, so again, how many select from collection you will have after custom transform depends on how many dynamic frame you are returning through your dynamic frame collection. So in this, since in this case, the code over here was returning 3 dynamic frame as a part of the collection. Hence, we had 3 select from collection nodes, each of them picking their own frames by index 0, 1, and 2. And then after that, actually, each of these has got their own dynamic frame. And then up to you. I mean, if you want to add some more transformation, add some more transformation. If you want to use some kind of target node to write to say S3 bucket or some other destination, you can do, up to you. And each of them will pick their output schema. So the way you have defined 3 output schema over here based on the custom transformation, each of them will pick their own output schema and then simply work with that. So end to end, your flow might look like this. Like this is just one example where we are reading data from 3 S3 buckets over here, and then we were then putting that into the collection input collection to custom transform. Running some kind of business logic over here to change the data. Then we update the output schema. And then we got 3 select from collection nodes over here to pick the three output dynamic frames from the collection. And then we got 3 destinations, which are in this case writing all 3 dynamic frame to 3 different locations into S3 bucket. Yeah. So your business logic might look something like this. Not exactly like this, but yeah, it's just one sample of how it can look like. So that was how the custom transform work. What we are doing in this case is that I'm kind of reusing some of the parts I did for Glue Studio introduction lab. So in Glue Studio introduction lab, our workshop, we created a small data lake, and then we wrote a small Glue job using Glue Studio. Today also we are creating a similar data lake, in fact same data lake, but in this case we'll use custom code to inside your Glue Studio to write your transformation and then write it to the S3 bucket. So yeah, in this case we will read data from S3 through a data lake, and then we will write a Glue job using Glue Studio, which will use a custom transformation, and then write the output to an S3 bucket. So this is what we are going to build today to understand how custom transformation works. In order to do this exercise or workshop, we have created an instruction-based workshop and uploaded to our website. The description of this workshop has been provided in the YouTube channel description box. URL of the workshop has been provided to description box below. So I'm going to now show you the steps involved in performing this workshop, and I'll talk about how things work. But again, this URL is available, and then you can use it at any point of time to implement this scenario at your own pace to learn about using custom transformation in the Glue Studio. So let's jump to the workshop quickly. So here we go. So this is our aws-dojo.com where this workshop has been published. I have talked about this part, so let's start the workshop. So click on the workshop part, and then it has 8 steps to be performed. Again, it's very similar to our Glue Studio introduction thing. Actually, initial few steps are very similar. Only when we go to creating the Glue job, that in this case we are using custom transformation. But I have created in such a way that you can finish this workshop end to end without having any dependency on the introduction video. So the prerequisite is pretty straightforward. You need to have an AWS account, and if not, you might want to use this link to create the AWS account. And then here is what we are doing. So we have a customer's data over here, which will be put into S3 bucket, and then we will simply create a small data lake using this bucket, so this data. And then here, these are the fields of this data. And the kind of custom transformation I'm writing over here is that I'm going to take this customer contact first name and contact last name, and convert, and I'll add both of them to make this contact full name, and then we will drop this contact first name and last name. So the output data will have this customer ID, customer name, email, city, country, territory, and contact full name. These two fields will be deleted. So that's what we are going to build as a part of the custom transformation. First, we create few roles, and these roles are used by AWS to AWS services like Glue Job and Crawler to perform their activities. So the first one we create is an IAM role for the Glue. And this role is called Dojo Crawler role, and this role will be used by the crawler in AWS Glue to catalog the data into from the which is stored in the S3 bucket. And then you create another role similar to crawler, which is Dojo Glue role, and this role will be assigned to the Glue job, which will perform the custom transformation we want to write as a part of the Glue job today. Okay, so after having created these two roles, we actually prepare our source data, and our source data is in S3 bucket. So we create an S3 bucket. In that S3 bucket, we create two folders, data and the output. And then under the data folder, we create another folder called customers. And there we simply go and upload this customers.csv file. So it is a sample file which you upload to your S3 bucket, and this is going to work as a source data in the Glue job today. So after having our source data ready, we simply move on to configuring the data lake. To do so, we go to the lake formation. You add administrator for the lake formation. This is a mandatory step you have to perform before you can do any other operations in the lake formation. So you add administrator in the lake formation. And what you do, you actually use your logged in account to as an administrator, so that with your logged in account you can manage your lake formation configuration as an administrator. Once you do that, you need to create a database in the lake formation for the data lake, and in this case we are creating a database with the name DojoDB. Okay, and once we have done that, then we need to also configure the data lake location. And since our data is in this bucket S3 Dojo customer /data, we simply configure this as our data lake location. Okay, so this completes our configuration of the data lake by having data lake location as well as database created. Now we will simply create and run a crawler which will catalog the data from your S3 bucket so that it is ready for the as a source data for the consumption by the Glue job. So in order to run the crawler, first this Dojo crawler role, which we created earlier, needs to have permission on the Dojo DB database in order to create or update table over there. And that's what we are going to do as the first step. So you go to lake formation, you select your Dojo DB database and say, I want to grant this role permission, and in the permission you say, hey, this role has got permission to create an alter table. So now when we assign this role to the crawler, crawler will have permission to be able to create an alter table inside DojoDB data lake database. So once you do that, we go and add crawler. So you go to the Glue console, say I want to add a crawler. You give this a nice name called say Dojo crawler. And then it will ask, okay, from where you want to crawl the data. Say I want to crawl data from S3 bucket. This is the folder location where my data is, and this is the location where you uploaded your data. And this is the IAM role I want to use to crawl the data. And then you simply save it and run it on demand. So in this case, we are running on demand, but in actual production environment, generally you schedule your crawler to then runs once in a day or once in a week, depending on how frequently you think your data catalog schema will change. Okay, so you run this crawler, you finish and run this crawler, and when the crawler finishes the running, you will see that it will create one table in your Dojo DB database. And in fact, you can go to the lake formation, click on the tables, and you can see that, hey, a customer's table has been created into this Dojo DB database. Now, so this customers table in your Dojo DB database actually presents the data you have in the S3 bucket. So now we create the job in Glue Studio, and in order to do so, we go to the Glue console. In fact, before we do that, again, the job which we are going to write is going to read data from the customer table, do the custom transformation, and then write to S3 bucket. That means this Dojo Glue role, the role which you created for this job, needs to have select permission on your customer's table. Your lake formation security works on top of your IAM security. So what we do, we go and select to the lake formation console. We select the customer's table, and they say we want to grant access to this table. And then here we select Dojo Glue role as the role which will have select permission on this table, and then this role will be assigned to the Glue job, so that Glue job can make a query to the source customer's table. So we assign the grant permission, we save it, and then we start writing the Glue job. And here we're going to write Glue job in the Glue Studio. So in Glue, you will see AWS Glue Studio as a new menu under console, and then you click on that and say I want to create and manage a job, and then you can either use a template. But in this case, we are using a blank graph so that we can create the whole flow from the scratch. So you select the blank graph and say, I want to create a new job. When the job is created, actually, it's completely blank in the beginning. So first thing, I recommend that to go to the job details and give this job a nice name. In this case, we are saying it's a Dojo custom job. And then you provide the IAM role this job is going to use to perform the action, and then we save it. Okay. And after that, we go to the we go to the visual tab. So if I go for the we go to the visual tab over here, you can see this is blank, and this is where we start adding nodes and configure node to build the business logic. So moving on, you click on this this plus button over here to add a new node. So you click on this plus button and say, okay, fine. It adds a new node, and first node we are going to use to read data from the source, which is the customers table inside S3 bucket and also catalog. So we simply say the node name is read source. I'm reading it from S3. And then we simply go and click on data source properties. And in data source properties, you select my data is coming from DojoDB and customers is my table. So fair enough. So I have now configured the first node who is responsible for reading data from the source. And then comes why we created this tutorials altogether is that we add the next node. And our next node is a custom transform or custom code node. So when you add the custom code node or transform node, what happens that, as I mentioned earlier, it by default adds one select from collection node as a child, because the idea is that this node will, custom transform node will return a collection of dynamic frame, and select from collection will able to pick a particular frame from that collection and do further processing on the data. So let's come back to this custom code node. So you give this node a nice name called, say, hey, transform data. This is a custom transform, and the parent node is read source, so that this is executed right after reading the data from the source. And then we click on the transform. So in the transform, actually you write your code. So you can see here is your function, the code block in the transform, and here you're writing the whole code. And this code is very straightforward, guys. So what we are doing here is that since we have only one parent node, that means we are getting only one dynamic frame into our input collection. So we are using this index over here to fetch that dynamic frame, and then we are using this toDF method to convert into data frame, because I want to use some of the data frame transformations. And then I'm using PySpark SQL import function method to concatenate this first name and last name as a full name, and add as a new column inside this data frame. And then from data frame, we simply drop the first name and last name, because now we have got full name. I don't need these two fields anymore. And again, this is, guys, PySpark programming. And if you don't know, yeah, please refer to my PySpark video. And then after that, once we have done that, we again convert this data frame into a dynamic frame, because Glue and PySpark together, they understand dynamic frame as a way to exchange data. So you're converting this data frame into a dynamic frame again. And once you do that, you simply add that into the collection of dynamic frame and return back. So again, it took collection as an input, took the data frame out, did the transformation, and put it back to dynamic frame collection and returning back. Okay, that's what the business logic is here as a sample. So once you have done that, actually, as I mentioned that now here you have done this kind of transformation where you created a new schema, a new column, and dropped two columns. Now custom transform has to tell the node coming after it to that what is the change in the schema. That's why you go to the output schema here, and there you have to modify the schema to match what transformation you have done here. So in this case, what we did, actually, I'm a very lazy person. So what I did, I simply renamed the customer first name to contact first name to contact full name. That is also a string type, and I removed contact last name. And then you can see here it matches to the schema. The code did the transformation where your first name and last name has been dropped, and contact full name as a string type has been added as a new field. So you do that, and then after that you go to the next node in this case, which is select from collection. And select from collection is pretty straightforward. Sorry, I think I'm on the wrong step. Yeah, select from collection. And select from collection is pretty straightforward. The job of the select from collection is to simply select one dynamic frame from the collection of the dynamic frame. And if you look at the custom transformation, it was returning only one dynamic frame as a part of the collection. So we simply added one select from collection node, and we said pick the frame number 0, which is the only dynamic frame it has. And now we have picked up the dynamic frame. Now job is to write it to S3 bucket. So we added one more node saying it is a data target node. We give this node a name write data, writing to the S3 bucket. The parent is this select from collection node, and then we click on data target properties. And in this data target properties node, we say we want to convert into JSON format the data, and I don't want to do any compression. And my location is S3 Dojo customer data / output. So this is the location I gave for writing my output data. And then we save the whole job. In fact, yeah, save time to time your job. And then after that, you run the job. So you can click on the run button to run the job. And then you can go to this run details tab to see the execution, and wait till the status of the execution changes to succeed. And once you do that, you know that your Glue job has finished the job. It has performed the transformation, and it has put that into to destination S3 bucket. So if you go to the destination S3 bucket, you can see a data created like this. And if you open the data, you can see the data has been transformed, and you can see here there is no it has first of all converted to a JSON document, and the second one is that there is no contact first name and last name. In fact, we have got a new column called contact full name, which has got a first name and last name put together. So this has performed the transformation using the custom code. And then next step is to go and clean up the resources so that you don't incur any cost post the workshop. So you simply clean up the resources so that your account is reset back to where you started. So that was all. That finishes the workshop. Hope you like it, and if yes, please click on the like button. Please subscribe to my channel. It really encourages us to make new videos like this. And there are many other workshop and exercises like this, which are published to our website, aws-dojo.com. Yeah, please visit to our website, look into these workshops and exercises to learn about AWS services by implementing scenarios. If you have any feedback, you can provide us either in the comment section of the YouTube channel, or you can also click on this contact us tab over here and can provide feedback by filling a simple form over there. So that was all for today, guys. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I look forward to your feedback and comments and requests for the new content. And I promise to come back with something new in a couple of days' time. Meanwhile, enjoy your day and stay safe. Bye-bye.